Yeah, so here we go. With your favorite Democrats sitting there opposing the proof of citizenship for voters. I never understand what is the problem. Why go against that? You have to use your ID in order to get a job, don't you? And get a driver's license, don't you? You should be able to use your ID in order to vote. But
All right, Brooke, thank you very much. Actually, we're going to keep the focus on Columbia University. The Trump administration may take the crackdown on Jewish hate even further, reportedly, by pursuing a legal arrangement to put Columbia University under a consent decree. That would put a federal judge in charge of ensuring the school complies with federal law. Now, if they put that in place and the judge says Columbia has failed, the university could be held in contempt of court as well as face fines and time behind bars for somebody. The Wall Street Journal with a headline, Trump administration wants to install federal oversight of Columbia University. And it goes on to say government is aiming to legally bind the school to changes as they negotiate over federal funding. In focus now, Sean Hannity, host of Hannity and host of Sean on Fox Nation. Great to see you.
Great to see you, Harris. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very good. By the way, can I start out with one selfish note that praises you? Nothing in the world makes me happier to read that you beat the ladies of that hard-hitting news show, The View. Just makes me very happy. I know you're too humble to probably tell your audience, but I can brag for you. But that makes me very happy. Congratulations. We've been friends a long time.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you. And a big reason why I'm here is you. You know that. That's a story. We should tell that story on Sean sometime.
I would love for you to come.
That would be fun.
I did an hour and 40 minutes with Sage Steele last night. I love doing the podcast. I love long form. I love going deep, hard in the paint. It's a lot of fun. But let me go to your question here, because there's a lot of issues that are in play here. If you think of these universities and you look at their anti-harassment, what is your pronoun, which they often have at the beginning of the school year, and their rigid policies, which maybe in some cases are warranted and right. Why did Columbia University allow students to go up to Jewish students or ask students as they were walking past these encampments, oh, are you a Zionist? And if
I dare.
And if they said yes, they were not allowed to pass through. Why did Columbia University put up with that? Why was their answer to tell Jewish students to stay home and learn from home? And I have a bigger question. Why does one American taxpayer dollar, why does 1 cent go to a university, first with all the endowment money that they have, with these discriminatory policies? Because we've got to remember, Hamas is a designated terrorist organization. I don't know what part these overeducated kids don't understand about what happened in October of 2023. I'm not sure what part of murder and rape and kidnapping and torture and beheading they don't understand, but Apparently, their education has not gone far enough. But the idea that one taxpayer dollar goes to these schools that have institutionalized hatred and discrimination is a waste. Why would why would a carpenter, why would a teacher, why would a plumber, why would anybody in the trades have to be paying or contributing money to a kid to go to an Ivy League college? If you want to make the argument, a community college or a trade school that would benefit their life, certainly more cost effective, good for society, but you're not entitled to taxpayer money to go to your ivory tower university.
Well, and the point that you're making is one that the Trump administration is looking at now, because they're in negotiations. So $400 million are frozen going to Columbia. And Columbia has kind of, Sean, become the litmus test for all of this. You've got Mahmoud Khalil from that university in now process against the Trump administration as they look to, deal with him, kick him out potentially of the country. They see him as a threat to the United States national security, according to our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. But $400 million for what exactly? Because the egregious things that you've just listed, I would argue you could get those for free, and that's shameful. But to pay the school while that goes on is beyond shameful.
It is a designated terrorist organization. The Secretary of State, Secretary Rubio, is 100% right. In the charter of Hamas, it says it calls for the destruction of Israel. These are groups that believe in death to Israel, death to America. This is a terrorist organization. It's not that long ago that we were covering 9/11/01. And that radicalism still exists, and it is now reared its ugly head on college campuses all around the country, and especially in these Ivy League institutions. And they're trying to ask the taxpayers to pay for it. I think you got to draw a line in the sand and say enough's enough. But it also does say something about the Democratic Party, and that is they are the party now that supports radicalism. They are fighting, for example, we have the SAVE Act. Why would you not want some type of standard in terms of voter ID, signature verification, chain of custody controls? Why don't we want integrity in our voting system?
It's a great question.
Partisan observers watching the voting all day, the vote counting all night, updated voter rolls. These are simple, basic, fundamental things. Proving that you are an American, that you really have a right to vote, is that so difficult to ask somebody to do? Because if I want to buy a beer or a Juul pod, or if I want to buy even a Zyn nicotine pouch, which I shouldn't admit that I use, I need to show an ID. And
that's right.
You need to show it. So the whole thing is ridiculous to me.
All right, I want to get two things in. One, and you mentioned this, and it's so true, Democrats are wearing some of the responsibility on this, maybe all of it, because they're silent. And you can say, well, a few people have spoken up. My goodness, there are hundreds of them who work between the Senate and the House. It should be deafening how much they're speaking up, but it's not. And then there's this point. In the House, though, some key legislation now has advanced President Trump's agenda on this very thing. You mentioned the SAVE Act. It mandates proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. Only 4 Democrats crossed party lines to join Republicans in voting for it. So again, not only are they silent, but they're not going to vote for making our elections for us as Americans. The measure would also require removing non-citizens from voter rolls. Most Democrats made the same argument against the bill ahead of the vote. Republicans now clapping back. Watch this.
70 million American women will be unable to register to vote using their birth certificate simply because they changed their name upon marriage.
This backward legislation would immediately disenfranchise the 69 million women who have changed their names after marriage or divorce.
If you're a married woman, I guess Republicans don't want you to vote.
Bless my colleagues' hearts on the other side of the aisle, using married women as a gotcha for voting. I've never had to bring my birth certificate to prove that I was a registered voter. Since we're using women as bait here, maybe in the next round of debates, they could explain to us exactly what a woman is.
Oh, Sean, it got chippy in that room. But look, here's the big question.
They,
Why
them,
isn't it
Anderson
just,
Cooper.
I know.
Was that Lauren Bombert? Yeah, don't play, don't mess around. And she said exactly right. These the same political party that don't even know what a woman is. But yet still all of a sudden now they want to protect married women's rights to vote. If you don't sit your asses.
Oh, I know. Oh, that was a moment when he didn't even know he was
Yeah.
misgendering somebody and got called out. Look, the big
Yep.
question to me is this. Why isn't it only Americans voting in American elections? And who doesn't
Great
want
question. It runs deeper though, and you're hitting on really significant issues today, but there are more. I mean, think about this. They have now, the Democratic Party is so radicalized. Their leaders are Jasmine Crockett, AOC, and Bernie Sanders handing off, I guess, the mantle to AOC. This is a party now that that champions the rights of men to play women's sports. They put the rights of illegal immigrants and even their right to vote without voter ID, or the rights of Tren de Aragua members, as Jamie Raskin wants to bring them back from El Salvador, over the safety of the American people. A party that screams bloody murder if you find $150 billion in waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption. But it's even worse than that. Go back to the president's joint speech before Congress. I mean, you didn't have a single Democrat stand for the first lady. Okay, they didn't stand for the president, but you can't stand for mothers whose children were murdered by unvetted illegal immigrants. You can't stand for a young man who survived cancer against all odds and became a Secret Service member that night, and he's 12 years old. You can't stand for the mother of a hero slain soldier who got killed in the line of duty, or a young man that lost his father and got a commission at West Point, and that your only resistance is holding up a paddle at, acting like you're in a bingo hall. That is the Democratic Party today. Now, that's great if you're a conservative. That's great if you support President Trump. But I don't think that's going to move the needle, and their chanting and radicalism like we see on display every weekend. I don't think it's going to embrace. I don't think many people will embrace it. Yeah.
In a country where we are divided, we do want people to have, though, a sense that there are not only heart donors in the room. And that's what that night felt like a lot of the time. Sean Hannity, it's been great to have you. Thank you so very much for being in focus.
I love being on your show. Congrats on all your success again.
Thank you.
That's right. Harris beats that hard-hitting news show, The View. And I couldn't be happier.
Thank you, Sean. Take care.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget.
And you see why they favorability is going down, downhill. And they don't care. They're gonna ride it out. Okay, you're gonna ride it out. You ain't gonna never get back in the White House. Really see more and more people with the whole TikTok walk away movement coming out every 5 minutes talking about they not riding with the Democratic Party anymore. I think they're going to be cooked for the next 20, 30 years. video. Texas is finna come through and sound off on these sanctuary cities. I like Texas. This is why I love Texas. At least they put their people first and not everybody else.
I hear you when you say that there are people who have done horrible things, but is it possible that there are people who are innocent as well in here?
Toda la gente que está acá.
Garcia claims every person in Secot is an active member of a terrorist organization.
And you're confident that that's the case?
Es correcto.
Critics have said there's a lack of due process, so it's impossible to say for sure.
Questions have been raised about that severity of treatment, and it is seen certainly as harsh. But when you talk to Salvadorans, they say, yes, perhaps harsh, but totally necessary to have eradicated the gangs and to keep them out. The question is that same level of treatment necessary when it comes to the deportees that are coming here from, say, the U.S.?
That's CNN asking the prison director in El Salvador if he's confident that the prisoners there are criminal illegal alien gang members. The prison director answered that's correct. Let's welcome to the show the sheriff of Terrell County, Texas. He's Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland. Sheriff, it's great to have you on. What's your take on this? CNN is reporting that critics have said there's a lack of due process, so it's impossible to say for sure whether they are all of them are criminal illegal aliens. The Trump team says ICE is vetting them, that there's proof that they are. What do you say?
Hi, Liz. Great to be back on with you. And I can tell you that having been a Border Patrol agent for 26 years, and ERO being, if you will, a sister agency, ICE, under the Department of Homeland Security, those agents and officers are certainly vetting those that they take into custody against NCIC, which is National Criminal Information Center, as well as the Criminal Justice Information System, CGIS. Look, when we apprehend somebody on the border, we vet them through our own databases. And fortunately, that we identify those that have been here as criminals and are able to, expedite their cases and prosecute them. So I can guarantee you that ICE is doing their due diligence when apprehending these criminal aliens.
Okay, let's get your reaction, please, to President Trump speaking on the violent Venezuelan criminal gang Tren de Aragua today. Listen to this.
They want these people coming back, Tren de Aragua from Venezuela, the Venezuela jails that cut off the fingers of a man in Colorado. They cut off his fingers because he called the police looking for help. They said, "Did you call the police?" He said, "Yes, I did." "Put your hand down," and they cut off the fingers. This is what they want to bring these people back now. And I want to thank the president of El Salvador for the job he's done, because that's the way it has to be done. It's too bad.
So do you feel, Sheriff, that the media and Democrats are giving enough attention to how violent these criminal illegal alien gang members are? And also, why did Joe Biden let them roam America's streets for so long?
So first of all, to the first part of the question, I'm still shocked that the left or even these sanctuary cities still, won't admit that these are criminal aliens. These are some of the worst of the worst. And that's why Tren de Aragua, as well as MS-13, were designated as these terrorist organizations, because they're just as bad as some of those Mexican cartels. Just like President Trump said, by taking the fingers off of somebody, if you go against them, they're going to harm you. And Americans need to know that and need to be aware.
Yeah.
When we talk about President Biden allowing so many people in, we hear people say that it's because they wanted to change some of those congressional districts, turn them from red to blue by votes. But I like to say that it's modern day slavery. Look, they wanted to bring these people in to take low-paying jobs, unskilled labor jobs, and we've even heard a congresswoman from here in my home state of Texas, refer to they're not going to pick cotton anymore. The reason we brought so many people in this world is into this country is slave labor, if you ask me, modern-day slavery.
Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland, and we appreciate you so much for coming on the show, and thank you for your service to Texas and to the border and to America. Appreciate you so much.
He's absolutely right. That's why they want this stupid due process thing, so they can turn around and sneak them right back into the country and give them low wage paying jobs. And not only just that, but to turn around and allow them, it will allow them to maintain being in power. So the red state turning to blue state thing is actually true. It's actually true.
I just want to say you're right to be concerned about Elon Musk because he's an unelected billionaire who has a tremendous amount of influence, and it's not the same as civilian employees that other agencies have had. When he was asked about it, they said he wasn't even in charge of Doge. They tried to hide the ball. If he is finding all of this waste, fraud, and abuse, come before Congress, lay it out, not through a series of tweets, not through these unverified reports that he's putting out. And it's very peculiar how, at the same time, 7,000 Social Security employees are fired, 6,000 from the Veterans Administration are fired. His company is getting more contracts and making more money off the federal government every day. And not one word is saying about the level of efficiency through must-run federal contracts. He now has Starlink at the White House as a server. What is it? He's aggrandizing himself, and no one is even calling him to account and holding him accountable. Everyone should be concerned about that. This is not normal. This is not regular. For one person to have that kind of access over every agency, over people's data.
This is what I have a problem with. You sat here and you let George Soros have his hand in USA for almost over 2 doggone decades, 3 and 4 decades, and you ain't said nothing about it. George Soros been sitting there funding protests and everything, and you mad. Elon Musk was y'all favorite boy 4 years ago. Elon Musk was their favorite guy 4 years ago. But now all of a sudden, he done sided with the Republicans. Y'all don't like him no more. So now you want to question him. Now you want to try to hold him accountable. Making up stories about him cutting Social Security when he didn't do that in the first place. Making up stories about him cutting funding for Medicare when that's a lie as well too. These people want Americans to remain dumb so they can remain being in power. That's why they done built this inefficient Department of Education system so doggone. That's why they got these inefficient Department of Education system, and it's been there for how long? And yet still you got kids that can't even read at a 3rd grade level. You got kids that can't even read past a 3rd grade level. And this is why. Because they want you guys to remain stupid and dumb so you can just vote Democrat. Because if you find out anything, if you turn around and you start to gain more knowledge, guess what's going to happen? You will start to become even more conservative and Republican, and they don't want that. See, they don't want you to find out things about the KKK, who was basically founded by Democrats in the 1800s. Or Franklin D. Roosevelt, who locked up Japanese Americans in internment camps during World War II. He was a Democrat, and he had a 3rd term. While everybody's sitting there mad about Donald Trump joking about a 3rd term, Your boy Franklin D. Roosevelt had an actual third term, and that's the reason why they turned around and they changed the Constitution after him in the first place. He was a Democrat. You know that Southern Democrats are the ones who voted against the Civil Rights Act bill. And when it got passed in 1964, guess who was the majority of the House? Republicans. They don't want you to know how truly racist and oppressive this political party really is. That's why they still want you to rely on things like Social Security. Well, actually, Social Security is for the people that paid into it and basically retired and worked all their life. But this is why they don't teach you about anything about stock investments in school, real estate investments in school. Because they don't want you to become independent and self-reliant. They want you to remain a slave.
Data over security systems. When you are elected, after the election, you are everybody's president. I am everybody's congresswoman. And the fact that so many Americans, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, are concerned by this should be enough for us to have some kind of action to help to ease people's level of discomfort and explain to them this is what is happening. If he has found all of
Here we go. This is what Democrats love to do. Fear-mongering. Everybody is concerned. Democrats and Republicans. No, they're not. No, they're not. Let me tell you what's really going on with the hands-off protests. Even if you turn around and let's say they show it up on these doggone platforms in these news media outlets, majority of the people that are out there that are protesting, they're not even Gen Zers. They're old left liberal boomers who pretty much don't do any research on politics whatsoever. The other half of the protest is paid protesters who don't even know what they're protesting for. Who don't even know what they're protesting for in the first place. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I tell you, social media and all these independent media platforms is going to be their downfall. This is going to be their downfall completely. Because no matter what, if you're an independent, you can turn around and sit here and say that you don't like Republicans, but how much you want to bet the more that you learn about the Democrats' shady past and shady dealings, the more you gonna pretty much definitely hate them more than you hate Republicans. You gonna hate them even more than you hate Republicans.
all of this waste, fraud, and abuse, we don't want that either. But what we're talking about is burning down the house instead of taking. I'm still talking, please.
Is there one thing you agree with?
What we're talking about is burning down the house instead of taking out the garbage. There is waste in the federal government.
To say I'm still talking, ma'am, you been talking for a hot minute, ain't doing nothing but fear mongering. But watch, when he get a chance to speak, I bet you she gonna try to interrupt. I bet you she gonna try to rebuttal when it's not her time to even speak. Let's
Government. All of us would like to see that go so that we can help the people.
One thing of waste.
Mr. Lawler, can you please let me finish my? Can you let me finish my conversation? And I'm going to finish.
Okay.
And I'm going to finish.
Find one thing of waste that you
So when
disagree with.
what is your question?
Can you identify one thing of waste that they have found that you actually agree with, that it should be eliminated?
Well, today, I don't know if it was verified or not, but they said that people took advantage of the unemployment system. Anyone who breaks the law and steals federal dollars should be prosecuted.
And the only way to get that information is to actually analyze the data.
And we have processes and policies to do that. But for one person to make those decisions, everyone should have a level of concern by that.
Respectfully, in order to actually uncover that, you need to analyze the data. They have people that are career employees of each department.
Who are they?
Each department
Who are
that are
they?
working as part of
Who
this
are they?
entire Department of
Who
Government
are they?
Efficiency. And the bottom line
Who
here
are
is this.
they?
You're talking about uncovering the fraud.
Who are they?
What exactly has been uncovered
Who
under the
are
Biden
they?
administration? They're career employees.
Who are they?
I know you think this is like some big stunt, but the fact
Who
is,
are they?
you're talking about career employees that are part of each department that are working with the Department of Government Efficiency to uncover the information. So you say you support the uncovering of the unemployment fraud. Well, how do you think they got that information?
Do you have a list?
Do you know how they got the information?
I'm not sure if the Republican conference got a list of the employees at Doge, because we didn't. So that information has not been availed to us. So if there
Here we go with the lion. Okay, so if you didn't turn around and receive that information, then why do y'all have a Doge committee? Why did y'all turn around and create a Doge committee? So if you don't have that information and that information was not given to the people, then what the hell are you doing having a Doge committee hearings? Shall we go back to MSNBC when they was talking about big balls? When they was sitting there and they was checking the backgrounds of the Doge employees? Should we not do that? What is this lady talking about? She ain't doing nothing but fear mongering.
there are employees, career federal employees, who are working within the system to find this information, we'd love for you to share that with us.
But the bottom line.
Listen, the thing is, you turn around and you turn a blind eye to the things that they're actually sharing because it doesn't benefit your party and it hurts your party even more. This is why you can't turn around and trust everything that they say.
The bottom line is you should be more concerned about the amount of fraud that has already been uncovered. When you're talking about Small Business Administration giving out $300 million of loans that have not been paid back using Social Security numbers that are fraudulent, that is a problem.
Congressman McKenzie, what are you doing to control Elon Musk? He was not elected by the voters and is running completely unchecked. His actions, and specifically his treatment of federal workers, are heinous.
Well, let me say thank you again for joining us. I know right where Orfield is. I grew up and went to the Parkland school system, so know it well. And want to say this, every administration is staffed with unelected individuals who are tasked to carry out the wishes of the president. That is every single administration. That is nothing new. In the case of Elon.
Exactly. Bill Clinton did it with Rigo. None of those employees were elected. None of them. Bill Clinton had advisors and everything. Joe Biden did too. None of them were elected. So now you have a problem with Elon Musk. You should have had a problem when Bill Clinton invented Rigo and all the employees that he hired on in the 90s were unelected officials. But now all of a sudden these officials have to be elected. No, the problem is you just don't like Republican power. If you go and you pretty much have gone far, 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 far to the left to now where you're basically showing your hand. And you're afraid that Doge is probably, with the work that Doge is doing, you are afraid that they might turn around and uncover so much corruption on your side that you probably will lose power for the next 20 or 30 years.
Elon Musk. And so what is happening right now is Democrats want to demonize the person that created and popularized the electric car, that created and popularized so many other great inventions, because he wants to come in and look at waste, fraud, and abuse. Again, they are fighting against change. They are fighting against cutting waste, fraud, and abuse in our government. That's what people are fighting against.
Absolutely correct. And the reason why they fighting against this is because they know if he keep going, it's going to mess up their ability to win back the White House. It's going to damage them so bad that they're not going to be able to come back from it. These people only care about power. They don't necessarily care about their own country. You have literally Democrats like AOC, Jasmine Crockett, who's on the Doge committee for no goddamn reason, just to sit there and rant. She'd rather turn around and replace the American citizens, not just white, not just black, but all American citizens with illegal immigrants. Because she keep ranting about it over and over again. You saw the bullshit that she said at Grace Baptist Church.
When they're fighting against Elon Musk and the Doge initiative, the Department of Government Efficiency, we spend more than $2 trillion of deficit spending every single year in this country. Simply unsustainable. So the fact that we want to go in and look for efficiencies is actually a good thing that the majority of people support. Now, do I support everything that Doge and Elon Musk have done? Absolutely not. There are things that have gone too fast, too quickly, and hopefully we can rein them in on certain things. That's our job as Congress, that we have a deliberative body, and we are going to look at the recommendations that Doge puts forward, and ultimately the things that we agree with, we're going to get passed into law.
What have they done that you don't support?
Again, there are many instances where they... I'm happy to answer the question. There are many instances, and I've already spoken out publicly about this. When they move too fast and too quick on certain things, you have to be very careful in government when you're making reforms. I saw it as a Pennsylvania state legislator. We went line by line through that individual budget, and there are a lot of things that look amiss. And you say, all right, well, maybe we should make a change to this. Maybe we should rein in that spending. But ultimately, when you actually talk to the stakeholders, when you actually get out there and talk to all these individuals, you actually make changes. One thing that I talked about publicly was what they were doing at the Social Security Administration. They were making individuals not be able to use certain services that were already there to adjust their cases. I actually spoke about that, said that's not correct. Thankfully, the administration corrected course, and they're now allowing seniors to go about the normal routines to make sure that their benefits are going to be received.
And Congressman Lawler, I know you've heard a lot from constituents about Social Security as well when you've been at home for some other town halls. Today, Elon Musk told the president's cabinet at a cabinet meeting that instead of $1 trillion in savings, they expect to get about $150 billion in savings. What would you say to Americans or your constituents who might be worried that he gave them false hope of what he could achieve?
Well, the question is over the course of a 10-year window, right? Over the next 10 years, over the next 10 years, we're projected to spend $86 trillion in spending. The budget resolution that was passed talks about potentially $1.5 trillion in savings over 10 years. That amounts to about $150 billion on an annual basis. Now, he's talking about the work that he is doing and the Department of Government Efficiency is doing, which is basically a turbocharged forensic audit through every department and agency, which hasn't been done in years. And the fact is that we have a federal government that spends $7 trillion on an annual basis, including $1 trillion to pay our interest on our debt. We have $36 trillion in debt. This is not sustainable, folks. It's not sustainable. Yes, we need to dot I's, we need to cross T's, we need to make sure that when decisions are made, they are made with all the information necessary and available. And I've already pushed back on decisions that were made that would have an impact. For instance, the World Trade Center Health Fund. Decisions were made to cut certain staff. I, Andrew Garbarino, Nick LaLota, Nicole Maliotakis, we immediately reached out to the administration and they fixed the issue. And we make sure that our 9/11 first responders are protected. But this is a much broader conversation. And I know you want to have Derek come in, but Congress has a role. And the role is in two forms. Number one is to provide oversight and have committees do hearings. I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee. We've already done multiple hearings with respect to USAID. Secondarily, Congress will play a role with a rescissions package. We will make a determination based on the recommendations from Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency and all of the secretaries, whether or not the recommendations they're making should be rescinded.
Oversight. I heard that a lot. So let's call in Elon. Let's conduct some oversight, 100%. And here's the thing. I don't like waste. I don't like inefficiency. The American people doesn't like waste or inefficiencies. We're all about that. But how do we go about making sure that we respect those government workers who've dedicated their lives and their careers to working for us? These are dedicated public servants that they came in and just fired. And I was proud a month ago to introduce my very first bill, Protect Veteran Jobs Act, to force the administration to rehire all of the veterans that were fired without cause. And I welcome any of my Republican colleagues to sign on to that bill with me, because these are people who don the uniform like me. I enlisted when I was 18 years old to serve this country. They had our backs, and it's now our turn to have their backs.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on in the world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and peace.